I would like to introduce Boris Potapenko to introduce our next guest from the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Detroit chapter. Boris.
10 years ago, in front of the Ukrainian embassy, we all gathered to demand justice at the presidential elections. At that time, one congressman joined us to voice his support for justice and fair elections, and 10 years later, he is here again today, and I again have the great pleasure and honor to introduce Congressman Sander Levin of Michigan.
As Boris said 10 years ago, with our orange scarf, we stood in front of the embassy. Ukrainian democracy was in danger. So was its independence. We're here today to say we're not going to let anybody take away from Ukraine either its independence or its democracy. We're here together to fight for that and make it clear to everybody in the world, including Russia. Now, I just heard the president. He signed an executive order. His order allows sanctions to be imposed. A clear message is being sent by the President of the United States. USA! 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 Now we're gonna change it. We're gonna say USA Ukraine. 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 Now wait. So we need to carry forth that message not only in Washington. I see a sign that says Detroit. I see a sign that says Ohio. I'm sure there's one that says Chicago. I'm sure there's one that says someplace in California there's a large Ukrainian American community. The fight we have here is a basic elemental fight. And that is a fight for people being able to speak for themselves and not be invaded when they speak for themselves. That's the issue. And so we're going to continue this fight. We're going to do everything we can. We are united in the United States of America for the independence and the democratic efforts of the people of Ukraine. All the people of Ukraine. All the people of Ukraine. Thank you so much.
God bless America! 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 God bless America!
God bless America, and also God bless Congressman Levin. A co-chair of the Congressional Ukrainian Caucus. He formed it back in 1997. Thank you, Congressman, for all of your endeavors, for everything that has been done on behalf of the Congressional Ukrainian Caucus. Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephen Blank, Senior Fellow from the American Foreign Policy Council, who's written extensively on this issue and on Ukraine. Stephen.
Thank you, Michael. It's a great honor to be here. The men who gave birth to this republic 230 years ago pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to defend it. In Ukraine, the people who died at Maidan and the people who sat there in the cold have also pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor, and we stand with them. And we not only stand with them, we stand with people everywhere who are defending freedom, government under law, treaties, and the right to self-determination, to live as they choose. Ukraine is not alone. As a matter of fact, Ukraine's security, as we all know, is Europe's security, and is bound up with it. And if we allow this aggression to take place, we will have undermined not only Ukraine, but also the rest of Europe. And therefore, in the words of the old East European descent, we are fighting today not only for our freedom, but for yours, and so are the people in Ukraine. We are also fighting for truth, not Putin's lies, but the truth. And we are fighting as well for peace, not violence, not coups d'etats, not annexations and phony referendums, but democracy, the rule of law, and the observance by states of their international treaties. 4 months ago, Mr. Putin wrote in the New York Times that intervention against treaties was not legal. Well, here's his chance to live up to his words, and we should hold him to account. And finally, we call upon President Obama and the governments of the EU and of NATO to observe their agreements with Ukraine, as well as to make sure that Russia observes its agreements with them and with Ukraine. Because, as I said, we are fighting not only for Ukraine's security and peace, but also for Europe. And today, it has fallen to the people of Maidan and in Ukraine, with whom we stand, to save Ukraine by their exertions and Europe by their example. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. As you notice, we have many supporters and many friends with us today. Our next speaker doesn't need an introduction. However, this very big sign that says Cleveland, Ohio, will know very well who our next speaker is. She is the co-chair of the Congressional Ukrainian Caucus, very well known within our Ukrainian American community. Please warmly welcome Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur.
Good afternoon, liberty lovers all. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for, with your presence, standing with those halfway around the world and our beloved nation of Ukraine who are fighting for liberty, and we stand with them. I want to thank Action Ukraine, Michael Southview, everyone who has come from Cleveland, from Ohio, from all across this great, great country, all the religious leaders, all of those in civic life who recognize that the world community owes a moral debt to Ukraine for what happened in the past and how that instructs us to build a more democratic future for that great country. Her potential is yet to be unleashed in this century. As I speak here, as we stand here today, and I'm going to have to right away leave, Congressman Levin spoke here a little bit earlier, we are about to vote on H.R. 4152. I brought Michael a copy of this. It is a bill that originates in the House, the institution I love most in this country, that extends $1 billion in loan guarantees to the government of Ukraine. This bill originates on the committee on which I serve, the Appropriations Committee, and it is supported on a bipartisan basis. As one man said next to me, God bless America. Yes, God bless America. And in closing, let me say for the religious leaders here, you know, we all wonder how we can be of help. You are here today, you've traveled far to stand for liberty, at home and abroad. But as we think about the Easter season approaching, the Passover season approaching, if we think about the sacrifices of those of faith who were killed for what they believed in Ukraine, imagine the largest Easter pilgrimage you could ever conceive of, the largest Passover that you, rally that you could ever have. Imagine if we held the Green Line somewhere in Ukraine and made a statement to the world that people of faith kept the faith, and they kept the faith for Ukraine. God bless you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Дякуємо! 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 God bless America! 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 We are grateful to our friends in Congress. Those who vote for this bill will need your thanks and gratitude as well. Make sure, once they vote, that you support and thank your member of Congress for extending this assistance to Ukraine. Representative Kaptur, thank you very much. Thank you for your work on behalf of the Congressional Ukrainian Caucus. We are with you, and we appreciate all of your efforts. Our next speaker, from the Crimean Association of New York, Mr. Mubayin Altan.
Your Holiness, our elected officials, the representatives of Ukrainian communities, and representatives of the Crimean Tatar communities. Let me thank the organizers for inviting us to participate in this extremely important rally for Ukraine. On behalf of American Association of Crimean Tatars of New York, I'm here to express and declare our full support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, without which the peace in in the Black Sea area will not be possible and is not possible. I am here today also to strongly denounce the unjust and illegal Russian military invasion of peaceful Crimea, the ancestral homeland of the Crimean Tatars. The new development today, the Crimean Parliament voted to hold a referendum in Crimea, and the vote was 70 out of 81 representatives, 78 voted for this referendum, which is, we believe, is a game, and it's the game that the Russian government is playing in Crimea. We strongly denounce this tactic, and we strongly disagree with this decision of the Crimean Parliament. Crimea is Ukraine! 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 Mr. Putin, ladies and gentlemen, has stated many times that he intervened in Crimea militarily to protect his Russian compatriots. I have a simple question for Mr. Putin. Against whom are you trying to protect your compatriots in Crimea? As Russians constitute 60% of Crimea's total population, the Russians in Crimea do not need any protection. They are well armed, and they are able to protect themselves. So also 85 to 90% of the Crimean Parliament are Russian or Russian sympathizers. The Crimean Parliament does not need Mr. Putin's protection. Russia already has a strong military existence in Crimea, in Akyar, that is Sevastopol. The Black Sea Fleet in Crimea does not need Mr. Putin's protection. Then the question again to Mr. Putin, whom are you trying to protect in Crimea?
The most vulnerable people that needs protection in Crimea are the indigenous people of Crimea, the Crimean Tatars. The wounds that Stalin inflicted upon the Crimean Tatar people in 1944 still bleeds today as we speak. The wound that Stalin inflicted on May 18, 1944, when the entire Crimean Tatar population was deported in one night. That tragedy still continues today as we speak. My people, the Crimean Tatars, have been peacefully struggling since 1944 to have their human and national rights fully restored and to settle in their ancestral homeland. The same Crimea Mr. Putin forces have invaded illegally. Even though the Crimean Tatars have been subjected to one of the most brutal and blatant violations of human rights, they have never resorted to violence. Tatar people believe in peace. Crimean Tatars believe in peaceful Crimea. That is why we are here in solidarity with our Ukrainian friends to loudly say no to Russian aggression in Crimea. That is why we are here today to loudly denounce the Russian invasion of Crimea, the integral part of Ukraine.
Millet, Vatan, Kirim! 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 Millet, Vatan, Kirim!
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the American Association of Crimean Tatars, I strongly appeal to the United States government, to European Union, to NATO, to United Nations, to Organization of Islamic States, and all the international organizations to stop Russian aggression in Crimea. I also appeal to the United Nations, to all international organizations, U.S. government, European Union, and Islamic Organization of the Islamic States to protect and preserve the territorial integrity of independent Ukraine. We as Crimean Tatars strongly and loudly say no to Russian aggression, because Russia has no business in Crimea. Russia does not belong in Crimea. Crimea is part of Ukraine. Crimea is the homeland of indigenous people of Crimea, the Crimean Tatars. Crimean Tatars strongly believe that under democratic Ukraine, they can regain their human and national rights, which was brutally and forcibly taken away from the Crimean Tatars by Russian aggressors. No to Russia, no to Russian aggression, no to Mr. Putin.
No to Russia! No to Putin! No to Russia!
Our next speaker, another policy analyst here in Washington, D.C., who has written numerous articles and books on Ukraine. Please welcome Janusz Bugajski.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody. An honor to be here. It's a very impressive gathering. Congratulations. I want to be very succinct and very precise. Ukraine's democratic revolution is an inspiration to all repressed societies. The heroes and heroines of Maidan have sealed Ukraine's place in Europe. And no power in Moscow can stop this process. Moreover, Moscow needs its own Maidan. Unless the Russian people replace Putinism with a democratic government, Russia faces disaster and disintegration. It's a state that contains millions of non-Russians, including millions of Ukrainians, who also we felt repressed in Russia. In which case Putin's imperial dream will turn into an imperial nightmare. And our leaders cannot blink. Putin threatens peace in Europe and aims to reverse the progress that Europe has achieved since the collapse of the Soviet Union. All capitals, including Washington, must call on the Russian people to embrace democracy and freedom and to throw out the dictator. Only then will Ukraine and Russia be able to live in peace. But whatever happens, Ukraine will remain whole and free and a part of Europe. Glory to Ukraine! Slava Ukraine!
Ukrainian national song «Гей у лузі червона калина».
Ой, у лузі червона калина похилилася, чогось наша славна Україна зажурилася. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. Не хилися, червона калина, маєш білий цвіт. Не журися, славна Україна, маєш добрий рід. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. Виступали стрільці січові у кривавий тан, визволяти братів українців з московських кайдан. А ми ті московські кайдани розірвемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. А ми ті московські кайдани розірвемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. Ой, у лузі червона калина похилилася, чогось наша славна Україна зажурилася. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну Україну гей розвеселимо. Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні!
Our next speaker the organizer of today's event here in Washington, D.C., the President of the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Tamara Oleksy.
Your Eminencies, Your Excellencies, Reverend clergy, honorable members of Congress, esteemed ambassadors, dear community representatives, Shalom Hromado. We have gathered here today from various corners of the United States to state in one voice, Russia out of Ukraine.
Russia out of Ukraine! Russia out of Ukraine! Russia out of Ukraine! Russia out of Ukraine!
Russia's invasion of Crimea is in clear violation of every international law. The UN Charter, the OSCE Final Act, the 1997 Friendship Agreement, and most notably, the Budapest Memorandum. In return for Ukraine giving up the third largest nuclear arsenal in 1994, Russia signed, along with the United States, Great Britain, and Ukraine, a trilateral agreement in which every signatory reaffirmed their commitment to Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Yet we are forced to gather here today to express our indignation. Russia cannot act like a tyrant without paying a price. No nation has the right to alter the borders of another nation by aggression. The Ukrainian Congress Committee of America welcomes U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's recent visit to Ukraine, and we are encouraged by the support expressed by the government of the United States for the courageous Ukrainian people and their commitment to freedom and democracy. We are reassured by the Secretary's continued position that he will not budge with regard to Ukraine's territorial integrity and his condemnation of Russia's invasion of a sovereign Ukrainian territory. We support the steps taken by the United States to encourage the de-escalation of the crisis and the forceful calls to Russia to stand down and withdraw its armed forces to their barracks. Today's announcement that the State Department is putting in place visa restrictions on individuals responsible for or complicit in threatening the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine is a move in the right direction. Nevertheless, we strongly urge the United States to deepen the political, economic, and diplomatic isolation of Russia as it continues to behave as a renegade and aggressor state. The security and territorial inviolability of Ukraine must be addressed, and the invasion of Ukraine by Russia must be reversed. All options, including peacekeeping forces and NATO pressure, need to remain open. Russia's imperialist ambitions and its invasion of Ukraine must be brought to an end. Russia must forsake its imperialist ambition and behave as a civilized member of the international community. The Ukrainian Congress Committee of America and the entire Ukrainian community, including our large Crimean contingent, wholeheartedly commits ourselves to the rebirth of a truly democratic and sovereign free Ukraine and to the people of this freedom-loving nation, and pledge our support to them in the hopes of attaining a future where true freedom, democracy, and the rule of law will endure and thrive. During this critical time for Ukraine, we would like to sincerely thank our dear friends from Central and East Europe who support us and stand with us today. We are extremely grateful to the many members of Congress for the strong words of support and for the resolution that is being introduced today in the House. Razom Misela. Slava Ukraini.
Our next speakers, or list of speakers I should say, come from the support from other communities in Central and East Europe. Our next speaker, Asta Banionis, who is the Lithuanian American Community's Public Affairs Council person. Asta.
Hello, my dear Ukrainian brothers and sisters. I've been told to warm you up a little bit. I do have a formal statement from our Public Affairs Council to read to you today, but I thought my sign said a lot. Shame on Putin!
Shame on
Shame on Putin! Shame on Putin!
Shame on Putin! Shame, shame, shame!
Aha! Shame on Putin! Shame, shame, shame! Shame on Putin! Shame, shame, shame!
Shame on Putin!
Shame, shame, shame!
Okay, let's hope his embassy reports that to him. Because the Russian television bureau certainly isn't going to do it, are they? Those of you who may have seen that young anchor who was so brave to resign her job, saying she's no longer going to mouth the Putin lie, the Putin narrative, the Putin delusions. Now, I was tempted to wear my Darth Vader costume. I actually have one. And 23 years ago, when many of you joined us, Lithuanian Americans, trying to protect Lithuania from another Russian, Mr. Gorbachev, we felt that if Darth Vader could do the right thing, right? Come off the dark side and come into the light, come into the force, that certainly Gorbachev could. So, one day, Mr. Putin will realize, I know it's going to be hard, but one day he'll realize he's leading his country into a dead end. Just as Jonas spoke before and others have said. He doesn't need to drag Ukraine and the people of Ukraine with him into that pit. Now, for the official statement. Statement on Russia's aggression in Ukraine. The members of the Lithuanian American community are proud to join with our fellow Americans, particularly Ukrainian Americans, today to support the independence, the sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Ukraine, which has been violated by military units of the Russian Federation. We reject and condemn Russian President Vladimir Putin's imperialist foreign policies, which are morally wrong, a clear violation of international law, and a threat to peace and security in Europe. We commend U.S. President Barack Obama and his administration, particularly Vice President Joseph Biden, Secretary of State John Kerry, and Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel for their timely and forceful response in support of the people of Ukraine and their new interim government. We support all current efforts by the administration to check the Russian Federation's attempt to seize the territory of Ukraine and threatening the lives and welfare of peaceful Ukrainian citizens. The U.S. administration should vigorously apply the sanctions of the Magnitsky Act to President Putin and to all Russian legislators supporting Russia's aggression in Ukraine. We urge the United States Congress to condemn the military aggression of the Russian Federation and to adopt any necessary legislation to assist the interim government of Ukraine. We urge our NATO allies. Where are they? We urge our NATO allies to join with the United States in condemning President Putin's actions, which have led to the illegal military occupation of Ukrainian territory. We urge our NATO allies to join the United States in imposing a broad spectrum of political and economic sanctions against President Putin's government. We support diplomatic efforts to turn back Russia's aggression against Ukraine. including the efforts of international monitors and observers from the United Nations and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. And we should really shame Putin again. How dare he throw a UN envoy out of Crimea? Shame on Putin! Shame on Putin!
Shame on Putin! Shame, shame, shame! Shame on Putin! Shame, shame, shame! Shame on Putin! Shame, shame, shame!
Okay, now, we call on President Putin to withdraw Russian troops from Ukrainian territory and abide by his country's treaty obligations with Ukraine, including the military basing agreement. We call for unfettered access for those international monitors to Ukraine's territory, including the autonomous region of Crimea. We've got democracy all around us. We support the civil rights of all Ukrainian citizens, including the native people of Crimea, the Tatars. We express our condolences and join you in mourning Ukraine's freedom fighters who were killed at the Euromaidan over the last month. We support the efforts of Ukraine's national parliament, the Verkhovna Rada, I hope I pronounced that right, and the interim government of Ukraine to establish a just and a free society, and their resolve to integrate Ukraine with the European Union, the European family.
Thank you! 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 Thank you!
Our next speaker, the President of the National Endowment for Democracy, Carl Gershman.
From the flagship American Institution for Democracy, I want to bring moral and political solidarity to the people of Ukraine at this moment of great crisis. I want you to know that despite the aggression by Putin, I remain hopeful. And I remain hopeful because of the spirit, the courage, the determination, the maturity and the discipline of the people of Ukraine. And it was demonstrated at every stage of the struggle in the Maidan. It was demonstrated on November 21st when they entered the Maidan in protest of Yanukovych's betrayal of the Ukrainian people in not signing the association agreement. It was demonstrated on November the 30th when the violence began against the Maidan and they did not retreat. It was demonstrated on December 11th when Ruslana helped the crowd resist the Berkut when they were attacking the crowd. It was demonstrated on January the 16th when they passed those repressive laws and the Ukrainian people did not accept those laws. And they rebelled on January 22nd when the violence began, and still they did not retreat. And they did not retreat when the snipers started killing scores and scores of protesters on February 18th and February 20th, when they killed 100 martyrs in the struggle for freedom, and still they did not retreat, and still they forced Yanukovych to flee the country so that Ukraine could have freedom and Ukraine could have democracy. Ukraine will be part and wants to be part not only of Europe, but of the West in a moral sense, not a geographical sense. They want freedom and they want democracy. They want the rule of law and not corruption. They want accountability and not impunity. They want unity and not division. Unity for Ukrainians, for Russians, for Crimean Tatars. Unity for Greek Catholics and Orthodox. Unity for the entire country. If Ukraine can achieve its vision of an independent and free country. It will be the death of Putinism, because Putinism is based upon controlling Ukraine. And I have a vision that Ukraine will become, as a free and independent country, a bridge between East and West, a bridge between Europe and Russia. Ukraine will be a source of peace for the world. Slava Ukrainie!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukrainie!
Героям слава!
Thank you.
Дороги іншої не треба, поки зорить чумацький шлях. Я йду від тебе і до тебе, по золотих твоїх стежках. Мені не можна не любити, тобі не можна не звісти, лиш ти варто в світі жити, поки живеш і квітнеш ти. Україно, Україно, віка далечі доріг, вірне серце твого сина я кладу до ніг, до ніг. Ми кохаєм донестями, і ще не скоро наш кінець, ще може нашими серцями розпали тисячі сердець, ще свіча наша не згоріла, ще наша молодість при нас, а тече варто наше тіло, то скажуть люди, скаже час. Україно, Україно, після далечі доріг, вірне серце твого сина я кладу тобі до ніг. Україно, Україно, після далечі доріг, вірне серце твого сина я кладу тобі до ніг.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Україні!
Героям слава!
Our next speaker, Nino Adlashvili, the executive director of the Georgian Association in the United States.
I represent Georgian Association in the United States of America. This is the oldest Georgian diaspora organization founded by the Georgian patriots who escaped Bolshevik invasion of independent Georgia in 1921. I believe that Georgians understand best, in a sense, what Ukrainians feel today. We stood here in this very place in the August of 2008, trying to convince the world community to stop Russian aggression. Unfortunately, many were skeptical then. And today, we stand here again, this time with Ukrainians. And I believe that now the pattern has become manifest to all. I believe that what is happening today in Ukraine should become a catalyst for the great integration of Eastern European countries, and in this case Ukraine and Georgia, into the North Atlantic security and economic structures. So that these peoples also may enjoy their peace, security, and liberty. So that these peoples also may have an opportunity to make their country prosper. So we stand here today with Ukrainians, and we call on the United States of America and the rest of the West to do everything in their power to stop Russian aggression. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава! Thank you, Georgia! 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 Thank you, Georgia!
The Georgian contingency still continues. Our next speaker, the former ambassador of Georgia to the United States, His Excellency Timur Yakobashvili, who is the Senior Transatlantic Fellow at the German Marshall Fund.
Dear brothers and sisters, you are my brothers and sisters because we are all members of one family of nations that were subjugated by the Soviet rule and by Russian Empire, who are trying to liberate ourselves from that dark past. We are struggling even today to have a freedom of choice, to live in free society. We want to live in democracy, not in kleptocracy. And we are attacked because we want to have a cities not with the monuments of Lenin, Stalin, and Dzerzhinsky and other killers and assassins, but monuments of our people who fought for our freedom. We are attacked because of our choice that we in our childhood never had, choice that we are having for our kids to live in free societies and make their own choices, to speak their languages, to keep their culture, to pray to their gods. And for that, evil empire, or resurrection of evil empire, is attacking us, is occupying our territories, is not allowing us to make our free choice to join the democratic nations of the world. And the fight, unfortunately, continues till today. Last time I was speaking and addressing to the rally, I thought that it was the last time. Last time that there will be a bloodshed on our streets, and last time that we will be losing our independent people, independent from subjugation. But today, in a globalized world, there is no one place for fight, but there are many places for fight. When Ukrainians were dying for Georgian independence, they knew that they are fighting for Ukrainian independence. When two Georgians died in Maidan, they knew that they are fighting not only for Ukrainian independence, but they are fighting for Georgian independence. And today we have to be everywhere, in every capital, visible, addressing to all world leaders that we want freedom. It's enough. We had enough subjugation from Russians. And I think Russian people deserve better than Putin. I think that we all deserve to make our countries as we want, to design them according to our beliefs, not beliefs of others. And if our nations made a choice to join European Union, NATO, and any other organization, it should be respected by everyone, including our neighbors. My brothers and sisters, fight continues. I was asked how you small countries like Georgia can dare to fight big countries like Russia. I can tell you that those nations that never fought, they disappeared. The fact that we are here, thanks to our ancestors, who never thought twice to fight much bigger aggressors than Russia. And thanks to our people, thanks to our fight, our kids will have a better future. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава! Thank you, Georgia!
А зараз, дорогі брати і сестри,
дозвольте представити молодого юна Максима Лозинського, який заспіває вам пісню «Океана Ельзе». Вставай, Україно, вставай!
Україна, вставай! Вставай, печать з молоком, молися на теплий дощ. Без тебе сьогодні сплять мільйони нових сердець. Давай, не можна сказати, так голо пряміє ефір. Тобі так мало залишилось часу сказати всім. Хочеш сказати їм, хочеш сказати їм. Всі разом! Вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай. Вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай, тобі що не вагай. Вставай, всім покажи, не ставити перший слід. Твоя земля чекає на захід, або на схід. Заходу і на схід, заходу і на схід. Вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай. Вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай. Україна, вставай! Вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай. Вставай, мила моя, вставай, мила моя, вставай. Україна, вставай! Слава Україні!
Україна понад все! Україна понад все! Україна понад все! Україна понад все!
Воля! Воля!
Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля! Воля!
Дякую, Максим.
Дякую, Максиме. Our next speaker is also familiar to the Ukrainian American community, as he was the United States' first ambassador to a new and independent Ukraine in 1992. Please welcome the Honorable Roman Popagyuk.
Michael, thank you very much for that kind introduction. And dear friends, it is indeed a great honor to be here today at this Freedom Rally in support of Ukraine and Ukraine's future. Here, this rally symbolizes the rights and privileges that we Americans have in this great country. The freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, and all the privileges that go with a democratic society. The people of Ukraine are striving for these principles on their own right without foreign interference. The aggression of the Putin regime against Ukraine will not stuff out Ukraine's desire for these democratic principles, nor will it divide the people of Ukraine. I take it to say that our gathering here today will give moral support to the people of Ukraine and will send a strong signal to the Putin regime that the days of the dictator, the days of blatant aggression, and the days of oppression are over with. I call upon the U.S. government, as it has been doing so far, to strengthen its efforts in isolating the Putin regime, and that we should continue to work with our allies in Europe and throughout the world with the same objective, and that the United States continue to remain steadfast in against the aggression of the Putin regime. The Putin regime has underestimated the resolve of Ukraine and of the United States. And it is this resolve that will lead to the success of freedom. God bless the United States. God bless America. Ukraine has many challenges, but Ukraine will overcome those challenges. Ukraine will prosper. Ukraine will survive. Ukraine will be free. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. As well, we have many friends from the Central and East European communities that are in support of Ukraine. Our next speaker, Valery Kavalevsky, from the Belarusian American Association.
Slava Ukraini! This is my duty and my honor to be together with you today. Belarus knows all too well what it is like to live under occupation of Russia. Belarus stands by the Ukrainian people in their struggle for human dignity and good governance. We support Ukrainians in their desire to rule their country without unwelcome foreign interference. Belarusians support territorial integrity of Ukraine and denounce efforts of Russia to grab Crimea. Anschluss of Crimea will not make Russia stronger. It will not make Russians happier and richer. On the contrary, Russia is already facing tough response from the international community. Russia is isolated in its aggression against Ukraine. The United States and European Union have implemented unprecedented measures to counter Russia's aggression. We commend these efforts and call on the international community, especially the European Union, to be more resolute in countering illegal actions of Russia to make it stop its aggression in Ukraine. Everything Putin touches becomes authoritarian and undemocratic. Countries under Russian spell, like Belarus and Ukraine, have endured poor governance, corruption, disrespect to human rights, and the absence of the rule of law. This is what Putin's Russia professes, and this is the order that conflicts with the values and principles of the democratic world. More than any other country in the world, Russia should be concerned about its own territorial integrity and protection of the principle of sovereignty and non-interference in internal affairs. Moreover, Russian government should pay attention to the rights of its own Russian-speaking population, who cannot develop normally under oppressive and authoritarian regime. We demand that Russia withdraws its forces from Crimea. We demand that Russia stops destabilizing internal situation in Ukraine and stops obstructing the efforts of the legitimate central government in Kiev to make necessary reforms. People of Ukraine have the right to prepare for the elections, to make their sovereign choice of the future of their own country. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Живе Беларусь!
Живе Білорусь! Живе Білорусь! Живе Білорусь! Живе Білорусь! Живе Білорусь! Живе Білорусь!
And now from our Polish colleagues, please welcome Marcin Zmudzki from the Polish American community.
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
My friends, yes, I see a couple of Polish flags. That's great. I wanted to recognize my friend Basia Anderson, who is the head of the Polish American Congress office in Washington. She's here with us, and because she knows that I am involved in supporting the Ukrainian movement, she asked me to say a few words to you. I'm not going to repeat all the great slogans that we've already heard, because I support all of those ideas, of course. I just wanted to tell all of you that the government of Poland and the overwhelming majority of the Polish people are in support of Ukrainian independence, territorial integrity, including Crimea, and democracy and European integration.
I encourage you guys to reach out to Polish Americans that you know in your neighborhoods and find out, because they may just wait for you to reach out and join you. But I wanted to tell you that based on my feedback, the feedback I'm getting from my Facebook and my emailing activities, Polish Americans are also overwhelmingly in support of your cause. And I just wanted to share with you that in addition to rallies that we are having, like this one and like just a couple of days ago in front of the Russian embassy, we are involved over the internet. This is a different revolution. I am in daily contact with the Euromaidan activists in Kharkiv. These are the guys I picked personally. I made friends with them. I didn't know them before. And it is possible to support them directly over the internet without actually going there. Now you can go there, of course, but it is also possible for people like me and like you to support them remotely. I help them write English statements. I co-edit their website. I help strategize with them. You can do this too, in addition to addressing and lobbying the government here. And I encourage you to do so, because these guys over in Odessa and Kharkiv and other places in the east of Ukraine, they're exhausted. They're literally exhausted. They're also sick from being in cold weather for a long time. And I encourage you to simply Google for them and find them. You may find my name actually on the list of the Kharkiv Euromaidan Coordinating Council. This is how the internet has changed how we act politically. It is possible for you guys to be with them every day, and I encourage you to be with them in that way as well. And I wanted to say hi to the various friends whom I remember from the Black Ribbon Day marches that we had in the 80s. It's great to see some of the faces again. Thank you for listening, and Poland is with you. Sława Ukraini!
Dziękuję, bardzo dziękuję! Bardzo dziękuję! Bardzo dziękuję! Bardzo dziękuję!
Дорогі брати і сестри, наша Небесна Сотня – це наші дійсні герої України. Герої ніколи не вмирають. Вони житимуть назавжди. Житимуть у думках, житимуть у піснях, житимуть у книжках. Та все будуть віддзеркалені золотими буквами в сторінках української історії. Слава Україні! Повіяв вітер з води, травася похилила, а в бою січовий стрілець, дівчина затужила, а в бою січовий стрілець, дівчина затужила, а того хлопець молодий, його лишень коханий, відпав, як той сухий листок, полі буде лежати, відпав, як той сухий листок, полі буде лежати, летить мороз чужих сторон, та й жаль день погляче, вставай, козаче молодий, твоя дівчина плаче, вставай, козаче молодий, твоя дівчина плаче, заплаче
козака, сира земля накрила, що не одного козака, сира земля накрила, повіяв вітер степовий, трава ся похилила, палкою січовий стрілець, дівчина затужила, палкою січовий стрілець, дівчина затужила.
Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Our next speaker is the president of the Hungarian American Coalition, Max Teleki. Slava Ukraini! Героям слава! Slava Ukraini! Героям слава! Dear friends, it is wonderful to be here with you today on behalf of some of the members of the Hungarian community and on behalf of people who love freedom and who are fighting and standing with you and the people of Ukraine. You are not alone. You are not alone. I stand here with a heavy heart, but also I stand here determined to speak up, make sure that our voices are heard. NATO members of the Visegrad countries that border Ukraine have expressed their concern about the recent violations of Ukrainians and the country of Ukraine's territorial integrity. These concerns have also been made by the Romanian government and will be made by like-minded people who believe in freedom and who condemn all action that treaties that we condemn all actions that threaten the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. We certainly hope that a decrease in these tensions on the ground can come through some dialogue. In full respect of Ukraine and international law and in line with the provisions of the 1994 Budapest Treaty. All free citizens in countries of Central and Eastern Europe, and specifically the Visegrad countries, believe that the recent military actions by Russia are not only a violation of international law, but also create an escalation, a dangerous escalation in Europe. As stated by the Prime Ministers of the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia, Hungarian Americans and freedom-loving people everywhere are appalled to witness the military intervention in a 21st century Europe akin to our own experiences in 1956, 1968, 1981, and let us not forget 2008 in Georgia. Georgia still needs our support and that of NATO. We need to call upon our leaders to accelerate Georgia's admission into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We must insist that the interim government of Ukraine continue to show leadership, restraint, and we applaud them here today, and that they also continue observing the basic principles of a free and fair society. We are with them today here, a society which promotes and protects not just the majority, but the minority of a multilingual and multi-minority public that ensures a pluralistic representative democracy in a 21st century free Ukraine. We call upon the EU not just to support the much-needed aid package to Ukraine, but also to punish and to approve sanctions against Russia without delay. Without delay. Without delay. We know from experience that Russia will act only if we are unified with a set of sanctions with teeth
that hit them in their pocketbook, especially the oligarchs who have enslaved democracy and bought their political power. If any member of the European Union, such as Germany or the United Kingdom, hedges, and I mean hedges, on the issue of sanctions, I say, shame on you.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
There is no room for hedging when it comes to this type of principle stand. There is no room for economic interests above freedom and democracy. Let history guide their conscience. Let history guide the righteousness of our outrage. And let history guide the solidarity with all citizens of a free Europe and a free Ukraine. And may God bless you and God bless Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Max. Our next speaker, very well known to the Ukrainian American community, the former president of the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Askold Luzinski.
Fellow Americans, let us at this time honor the memory of those who died at the Maidan with a moment of silence. Шановні пані і панове, дозвольте вшанувати пам'ять тих, які загинули на Майдані, тих героїв, однохвилинною мовчанкою. Дякую. And now let us pray for the repose of their souls. Помолімся за їхні душі піснею, що Господь Бог Ісус Христос нас навчив відспівати «Отче наш».
Отче наш, що єси на небесах, нехай святиться ім'я Твоє, нехай прийде царство Твоє, нехай буде воля Твоя, як на небі, так і на землі. Хліб наш насущний дай нам сьогодні, і прости нам провини наші, як і ми прощаємо винуватцям нашим, і не веди нас у спокусу, але визволи нас від лукавого.
Fellow Ukrainian Americans, our heroes of the Maidan dare not have died in vain. It is incumbent upon us to continue the struggle. There are 2 points that I would like to make to you today, which should be the hallmark of our future activity. We are standing here in front of the White House, which symbolizes the authority and power of the United States government. We express our sincere, heartfelt thank you to the government of the United States, to the President, the Vice President, the members of the House, the members of the Senate, for their support for the Maidan, for the positions that they have taken, for their sanctions, for their financial assistance. However, we dare to say today that this is not enough. We call upon the government of the United States and the other 27 members of NATO to accelerate the process of admitting Ukraine as a member of NATO. We seek NATO and American support, not only politically, economically, but also militarily. NATO! 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 There is another point that I would like to make. It is important to underline the fact that what happened in Georgia, where the so-called free world acquiesced in 2008 and allowed the Russians to retain the territory of Southern Ossetia and Abkhazia. This cannot happen now. Crimea is Ukraine. Crimea is Ukraine. Crimea is Ukraine. Crimea is Ukraine. Russian occupational forces have to withdraw. The United States and NATO must decisively state in no uncertain terms that the territory of Ukraine is inviolable. Ukraine is inviolable. Ukrainian territory is dear to all NATO members. Шановні пані і панове, ми зібралися сьогодні, щоб подякувати речникам перед представництвом вільного світу, перед Білим домом, перед представництвом демократичного, цивілізованого світу. По другій стороні є Путін і Росія. Це представництво нецивілізованого, авторитарного світу. Це ми зібралися, щоб вказати, що добро мусить побідити над злом, що добро перемагає. Ми дякуємо за економічну допомогу. Ми дякуємо за політичну допомогу. Одначе з повною свідомістю того, що ми кажемо, ми стверджуємо, це замало. Прискоріть членство України у НАТО. НАТО! 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 28 країн, член НАТО, починаючи від Америки, включаючи наших друзів з Польщі, Литви, наші друзі з Мадярщини, наші друзі з Чеської Республіки, естонці, латиші, прийміть Україну до НАТО вже! Прийміть Україну до НАТО вже! Прийміть Україну до НАТО вже! Ми просимо від вас не тільки допомоги
політичної і економічної, а оборони проти диявола, проти Путіна, проти російського імперіалізму. І друге, що я хотів додати, територія Криму – це територія України і кримських татарів. Це ніколи не була територія Росії. В 44-му році виселили кримських татарів, на їх місце посадили москалів. Це колоністи у Криму. Тому недвозначно ми не віддаємо Криму задля спокою. Крим є Україна! Крим є Україна! Крим є Україна! Крим є Україна! My fellow Americans, I beg you to hear our Ukrainian pleas. We need your support. We need the support of all freedom-loving people in the world. May God bless America. May God bless America. May God bless America. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
Дякую, Аскольде. Our next speaker, from our friends from the Baltic states, from Estonia, Marju Rink-Abel, President, Estonian American National Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was a hard act to follow. I understand exactly the sentiments that you feel because we have all felt them at one time or another. The Estonian Americans stand with you in support of Ukraine's search and desire for independence, freedom to make your own decisions, and to keep your territory whole and independent and secure. We are with you. We want to thank the U.S. government, the President, Vice President, Secretary of State Kerry for the actions taken so far. And among these are the promise of the $1 billion loan, the halting of planning for the G8 meeting in Sochi, freezing of assets and denial of visas for those responsible for the invasion of Crimea, and countering Putin's lies by speaking the truth. In addition, they are showing support for your neighbors, for Central and East European countries, by providing additional military support. For instance, they're sending additional fighter jets to the Baltics to police their airspace. But more needs to be done. These steps include, obviously, accelerating the plans to include Georgia and Ukraine in NATO, put increasing pressure on the European Union to isolate Russia and impose sanctions, export natural gas to countries dependent on Russia for their energy, develop a long-range plan for the Central and East European region to include security, energy, and economic improvements, and resume Russian language broadcasts to Russia to counter the state-controlled media. We need to get into Russia too and get our language and our thoughts and our ideas across there. Estonian Americans stand with Ukraine. Long live Ukraine!
Long live Ukraine! Long live Ukraine! Long live Ukraine!
Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
Thank you. Our next speaker, as well from our Baltic neighbors, representing the American Latvian Association, Ausma Tomšević.
Good afternoon. The Latvian Americans support Ukraine at a very challenging time right now. Ukraine is a friend and valued partner of Latvia and historically linked by close economic and political cooperation, and both countries share a border with Russia and have a high number of ethnic Russians living within their borders. In 1991, both countries broke away from Russia to become sovereign democracies. This is something we must continue to remind Russia of. American Latvians stand with you for a peaceful resolution and respect for Ukraine's territorial integrity. May your inspirational spirit, strength, and courage be sustained as Ukraine remains a united, independent country and emerges as a stronger, sovereign democracy. We encourage the U.S. to support Ukraine for the long run, not just for the short haul, and to implement sanctions and legislation to extinguish the geopolitical control efforts of Russia, including moving forward to expedite the approval of U.S. natural gas exports. Stop Russian aggression.
Hey, stop Russian aggression! 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 Stop Russian aggression!
Дорогі брати і сестри, заспіваємо пісню «О Україно». О Україно, о любаненько, тобі вірненько присягне. Серця кров і любов, все тобі віддати в боротьбі за Україну, за її волю, за честь, за славу, за народ. Україно, горим Закарпаття, душа побраття всіх племен. Слушний час вище нас, дружно раз, бояться не наказ за Україну, за її волю, за честь, за славу, за народ. А не в нікуди ми вже порвали і зруйнували царський трон. З-під ярем і з тюрем, вигоні, ідем на вольний світ за Україну, за її волю, за честь, за славу, за народ. Перед же, браття, наш прапор має, і сонце сяє нам очах. Дружний хрест, зброї блеск, каренів, і з ним здобудь нас спів за Україну, за її волю, за честь, за славу, за народ. О Україно, о любаненько, тобі вірненько присягнем. Серця кров і любов, все тобі віддати в боротьбі за Україну, за її волю, за честь, за славу, за народ. Слава Україні!
Our next speaker, Juraj Slavik from the Czechoslovak National Council of America.
Oh, brothers and sisters, we're all Slavs. We are all Slavs. And The only understanding is that Russia is Slavic too, but she's not really at this time, because Putin is a betrayer of all the good things that the Slavs stand for. So please remember this. Hitler started this process when he took over the Tsar. He then took Austria, then he took Czechoslovakia, but he took off part of Czechoslovakia because that was the Sudeten Germans. Yes, they were a minority in Czechoslovakia, and Hitler then was prepared to go after Poland. Can you imagine how many people died because of Hitler's push and imperialism? And yes, they attacked imperialism, and the only thing that remains is that Putin is a bad student of German history, and now he's trying to do the same thing with Ukraine, and the Tatars are standing up, the Ukrainians are standing up for their rights, and the only thing that America can do is say, this is immoral, it is wrong, we have the Bill of Rights, we have freedom, and we have morality in our side, and so maybe this is an immoral act on the part of Putin. And I think that the Russians ought to have some sort of referendum whether they want to hurt their brothers in Ukraine and in the other places in Crimea and everywhere. So Slava Ukraina!
Heroям Slava! If I may ask, the U.S. representative of the Crimean Tatars Majlis, Aya Bakali.
Thank you very much, everyone. I come here with a big message from the indigenous Crimean Tatars of Ukraine, the Crimean Tatar Majlis, a self-governing body. This message is for Mr. President Barack Obama. President Obama, in 2010, you announced as the President of the United States to support the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which the UN General Assembly adopted in 2007. This declaration embodies overwhelming majority of UN member states and is built upon the human rights obligation of states under the UN Charter, and is grounded upon the human rights principles such as self-determination and prior informed consent by indigenous peoples on decisions taken within their homeland. Where is the voice and the decision of the indigenous Ukrainians, the Crimean Tatars? It is with great sadness that we watch what's happening in Crimea, Ukraine. The question is for the international community. What is Putin trying to protect, and against who? The answer is that Ukraine's Maidan Square displayed its desire to be a full-fledged democratic society. And what Putin is afraid of is democracy. While Ukrainians embrace democracy, Putin is afraid of it. We, as Crimean Tatars, are troubled for the safety, and we fear for our family and friends. And it is very comforting for them that here in the United States of America, we have all come together to pledge our support. I thank you so very much. We love Ukraine.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Our Sarkeesian representative is here. Please warmly welcome Iyad Yugar.
Thank you very much. Circassians still love the Ukraine, and there is a very good reason why Circassians love the Ukraine, because the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people are freedom lovers and freedom fighters. If there is anyone in the world today understand the atrocities and the severity of the Russian atrocities against the humanity, it is the Circassians. A genocide that killed an almost entire nation. 90% of the Circassian nation was removed and killed and massacred and genocided at the shores of the Black Sea. If the world did not turn a blind eye to the Circassian genocide at the time, then other genocide would not have happened. If the world did not turn a blind eye when Russia occupied Georgia and invaded Georgia, then Russia could not have went and gone to the Ukraine and occupied the Crimean Peninsula. Atrocities cannot be allowed. Appeasing a dictator is asking for more atrocities from that dictator. One man in Germany, if the world did not appease him, World War II would not have happened. Today, the world cannot appease Putin. Putin is doing a crime today against the Ukraine and against humanity. And the Russian record in human atrocities is very long. From the times of Ivan the Terrible to the times of Putin the Horrible. It is atrocities, atrocities, and atrocities. Long live the Ukraine, long live the Ukrainian people. Circassians will be standing with you always. God bless you all.
Thank you, 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 thank you.
Ми всі зараз своїми думками і тривогами на Україні, але в даний момент ми знаходимося на землі, яка є нашим, де ми є гостями в Сполучених Штатах Америки. І тому, я думаю, відповідно буде співати пісню двома мовами. Я буду співати українською заспівом, а ви мені поможете приспівати англійською. А слова дуже прості. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Мелодія, щоб ви знали, як підспівати така. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Oh, my dear Ukraine. My love. Я починаю співати. Цей твій сон не скінчиться ніколи. Ти будеш одна. Твій портрет за вічкою слав розтане між хмар, між дивних людей. Всі разом. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Oh, my dear Ukraine. My love. Наче весела, між весняних дощів, погляд твій розплетені коси, розтануть як дим, між дивних людей. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Нікого на білій землі, лиш тоді ти відчуєш тривогу і навіть любов до вільних людей. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Oh, my dear Ukraine. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава Україні! Героям слава!
For everyone that did not see but heard, that was Victor Morozov, a very well-known artist from Ukraine. Thank you, Victor.
Bravo!
Speaking Speaking on behalf of the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Illinois Division, the Vice Chairman, Paul Bondaryuski.
Слава Ісусу Христу!
Слава навіки Богу!
Дорогі браті і сестри українці! Dear Ukrainians, dear friends of Ukrainians, today we have many people who have come across the United States to be here in front of the White House in the capital of democracy in Washington, D.C. People from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Detroit, Chicago, many other places. We have the Latvians, Estonians, Lithuanians, we have the Polish, we have Turks, we have the Crimean Tatars, we have many people who have joined us here today. And we are here for two reasons, my friends. One is, of course, to thank our American lawmakers for what they have done so far. And another is to remind them we need to have them stand with Ukraine. We need to have them support Ukraine. There is a legal obligation, there is a moral obligation. 20 years ago, 1994, the Ukrainian government voluntarily surrendered the third largest nuclear weapons arsenal in the world, voluntarily gave up weapons of mass destruction with one goal: world peace. It did that at the insistence of the United States and its allies. And today, we call upon the United States, we call upon Great Britain and the rest of the allies to step forward and enforce the Budapest Protocol. It is very critical that America keep its word. The world is watching. We will never get another country to voluntarily disarm, to heed the call of the United States to create a more peaceful world if the United States does not enforce the Budapest Protocol requirements of territorial integrity for Ukraine, independence and sovereignty for Ukraine, and it must step forward. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 years ago, Ukraine wanted world peace. 20 years later, Ukraine still wants world peace. As I stand here before you, we draw inspiration from the Ukrainian Marines, those brave soldiers who were marching in Crimea and were stopped by the Russians. They were held at gunpoint and live rounds were fired over their heads. They did not flinch. They did not back down. They proceeded to their base and they sang Shchena Merla Ukraina. We take inspiration from the Ukrainian soldier who said, I will fight to the last drop of my blood to defend Ukraine. Ukraine has seen too much bloodshed, and we think the United States and its allies can prevent bloodshed. We must continue to press. You all came here today. Your work is not done. You go home tonight. You contact your two senators. You contact your congressmen. You let them know Ukraine must get U.S. support. United States support Ukraine. USA support Ukraine.
USA support Ukraine. USA support Ukraine. USA support Ukraine. USA support Ukraine. USA support Ukraine. USA support Ukraine.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we reach out to Almighty God and we ask God to bless America. We ask God to bless Ukraine. Slava Ukraine! Slava Ukraine! Slava Ukraine!
Thank you. Our next speaker, Vera Partem, former president, Ukrainian American Student Federation.
Hello everyone, can you hear me well? No. Yes? First
and foremost, I want to thank all of you, the American and international community, for being here. Thank you so much for caring about the peace and freedom of Ukraine. I speak to you as a Ukrainian American student, as a student who moved to the United States with my family and received political asylum at the age of 11, as a student who cares and is blessed to live in the United States and have the freedom to exercise the beauty and the privilege of my voice. We all have that privilege. For the people who do not and who are not free to do so. So I ask you today, obviously all of us are here because we care for freedom, because we want democracy, because we want these dictatorships to stop. But the first and only way to counter this is not with tanks and more bloodshed, but it's with stopping the propaganda. Putin's #1 effective way of achieving his goals is not through tanks, it's not through bullets, because otherwise those soldiers that are right now in Crimea would be killing people and would be firing on people. His way to do things is through propaganda, and we must read every single thing with a critical eye and ask ourselves, whose voice is not being heard? What is being said? Whether it's in Russian, Polish, whatever language in the world it is, there is propaganda by Putin and his machine. And I ask you, please, think of this. Why did he bring forces to Ukraine, to Crimea? Because he knew that Crimeans are Ukrainians too, and they would come out and they would support Ukraine, and that's the #1 thing that he was afraid of. So what did he do? He put forces in Crimea so that people would be afraid to come out of their house. He put forces and he scared people into submission, but Ukrainians will not submit, because whether they are Russian speaking, whether they are Ukrainian speaking, they're all Ukrainians and they all are freedom loving. There's no division between West and East as others would like you to think, especially Russia. The only division is between the people who love Ukraine and those who wish it harm. Those are the only two divisions. And the other thing I would like to say, that the Western media assumes quite a lot that just because students or because people are Russian speaking, that they support Russia and the dictatorship of Putin. That is not the case. Russian speaking, minorities, Tatars, many nationalities, Jews, Ukrainians, everyone is living peacefully in Ukraine, Poles, Georgians, and what unites them is the love for Ukraine. They have different beliefs in politics, they have different beliefs, different in religion, different languages, but what unites them is their love for Ukraine. So even if they are Russian speaking, they were born in Ukraine, their kids go to Ukrainian school, they practice Ukrainian traditions. So the fact that they speak Russian does not mean that they want to be part of Russia. They want to be part of Ukraine. That's why they're coming out for freedom. And I ask you all, in all of your countries and all of your states, to counter this. We all have the freedom of our voice, and I ask you please to exercise it and to stop this propaganda. And the one last piece that I would like to say to all of you is think about the fact how absurd everything sounds. Because there are Russians living in US, or because there are Russians living in Alaska, does that mean that Russia has the right to attack Alaska or has the right to attack any other country to protect these kind of things? That is not true. That is all propaganda. And I ask you all to read it and to stand up against this propaganda. Because if all of us, whether through Facebook, through international media, whether we call our radio stations and speak the truth, we will get this through and we will show the way, because facts do not lie. Counter this propaganda with facts. And finally, I would like to say the biggest misconception that one more point. I know I must move on. One more point. A lot of Western media is referring to the Ukraine. It is not the Ukraine, and the reason it's a minor change, but the refers to a territory. Russia referred to Ukraine as the Ukraine, as a territory. Ukraine is a sovereign, independent nation. It is to be referred to as Ukraine, as Germany. We don't say the Germany, we don't say the France, and therefore, because Ukraine is a sovereign nation, we say Ukraine. Thank you all. Didi Magloba, spasiba. Thank you very much for all of your international support, and we can all do this. We must all do this, because it's our duty to exercise our voice for those who cannot. Thank you all. Thank you.
One last speech, and we are concluding. From the Polish American Congress, the Washington representative, Basia Anderson.
There were several speakers from the Polish community, so I will be brief.
I just want to say one more time that the Polish American community stands by you. We are with you. We are supporting Ukraine's European Union aspirations. We are supporting Ukraine's NATO aspirations, and we are supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity. I would like to also say a couple of words on behalf of the Central and East European Coalition. You heard from You've heard from several members of the coalition before. The coalition was formed approximately 20 years ago with the idea of supporting countries who have NATO aspirations. Now we will support Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
An announcement. Following the conclusion of our program here, we are reassembling at the Embassy of the Russian Federation at 4 p.m. The address of the Embassy of the Russian Federation is 2650 Wisconsin Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C. Please join us at 4 p.m. to continue our protest. We will conclude with a prayer from Ukraine from our two hierarchs, Stefan Soroka, Metropolitan of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, and His Excellency Danilo from the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the United States.
Слава Ісусу Христу!
Слава навіки Богу!
Ви знаєте, я слухав Віру, коли вона кілька хвилин тому говорила про свій досвід навчання в Америці і що означає бути українцем. Минулого тижня я мав нагоду бути в Україні на Майдані. І пізніше, відвідавши могили з квітами, і то є дійсно могили квітів на тому Майдані, де та перша сотня, де сотня молодих хлопців, нові герої Крутів, нові герої Майдану віддали своє життя за Україну. Пізніше я мав нагоду поїхати на Тернопільщину, де мої батьки далі живуть, маленьке місто Бучач. У маленьке село Зубрець. У тому селі живуть батьки одного із героїв Майдану. Його звати Ігор Костенко. Я говорив з мамою, я говорив з татом і з бабцею, котра розповіла, що протягом 2 тижнів перед тим, як він поїхав на Майдан, він піклувався нею, бо вона лежала немічно в ліжку. А тепер вона каже, що вона молиться за свого нового ангела. Я був на могилі його, і я бачив ті сльози, котрі проливала мама. Я стояв на Майдані, і я бачив тих матерів, котрі несли фотографії своїх дітей, котрі втратили життя, відстоюючи волю і незалежність. Ту волю і незалежність, яку ми маємо тут, в Сполучених Штатах Америки. Ту волю і незалежність, котру наші брати і сестри в Україні повинні мати і будуть мати. І вона нікуди від них не дінеться. Ні Росія, ні яка інша нація не заберуть від України право на волю і незалежність. Але ця воля і незалежність дається дорогою ціною. Смертю невинних жертв. І було б помилкою нам сьогодні закінчити наше зібрання, не заспівавши ту християнську пісню, ту останню пісню, з якою ми проважаємо людей, коли говоримо їм останнє до побачення, коли промовляємо вічна пам'ять. Отож, у блаженному спінні вічний спокій подай, Господи, усім тим, що віддали життя своє за волю та незалежність України, а особливо тим всім, що загинули під час недавнього кровопролиття в Україні, і сотвори їм вічною пам'ять.
Вічная пам'ять, вічная пам'ять, вічная пам'ять.
For all Ukrainians living here in the United States of America, throughout the world, for all our Ukrainian brothers and sisters in Ukraine, particularly Crimea, all the peoples of the nations who support Ukraine and support all endeavors against the oppressors of human dignity, God grant them many blessed and happy years. Soterios vode mnohaya и благая лета.
Ми заспіваємо на кінець God Bless America, а опісля український національний гімн. Stand beside her and guide her. The light from above, the mountain to the prairies, to the ocean, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Україні і слава їй воля, ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, замануєм і ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду.
Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні!
Я хочу всім подякувати. Кажуть, що в нас сьогодні на маніфестації понад 2000 людей. Це є ваша сила, вашими зусиллями ви приїхали і могутньо ми тут перед Білим домом відзначили цю акцію. Продовжуємо акцію перед російським посольством у 4-й годині 2650 Wisconsin Avenue Northwest.